Hey guys, just a quick disclaimer before we begin. This episode contains content that some listeners may find disturbing, so maybe don't listen with children around. Okay, now that's out of the way, on with the show. Hello Internet, and welcome to Ramblings of a Madman. I'm Alex, and I'm joined by Sean and Stuart for a shallow and probably uninformed dive into the world of unexplained mysteries, conspiracy theories, and the supernatural. How are we all doing today?
I'm fuming.
Oh, he's fuming
Oh,
already.
Charles,
Fuming. I haven't
said anything yet.
No, I went on holiday for a weekend trip to London, and I'll be very clear, the food and everything was really, really good. But we went to one restaurant and I ordered, it's very expensive. It's just very expensive. I spent 12 quid on a small pizza, with breakfast pizza. It was meant to come with eggs and prosciutto. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Prosciutto,
Yeah.
okay. Prosciutto.
Prosciutto. Sounds like a horrible disease.
Had some, ordered it with prosciutto. And then it came and it was wafer thin pack ham.
Home brand.
I was fuming, but I'm the mug.
You still are
'cause I didn't
fuming.
complain. I am still fuming. Because I'm annoyed at myself, I didn't actually do anything about it. So they saw me come in, They thought, oh, that guy won't know what prosciutto is. And I looked at it and went, that's not prosciutto, but I'm going to eat it anyway. So now who's the mug?
In typical British fashion, you said nothing and then moaned about it later to the internet.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's the
London's
rule,
a
isn't
very
it?
nice city. I'm not going to alienate a fan base if we have anyone listening in London. But
That one listener, the one listener in London's going, oh, fuck this podcast. Turns it off. Not dissing my ham.
Well, speaking of the internet, that's the thing we do our show on. Did you know that?
No.
This is a great segue. But
He's going to
if you want to find us on the internet, we're available pretty much everywhere you can find podcasts. We're on YouTube, Podbean, Amazon, Google, all the places. Just search for Ramblings of a Madman or Rome Podcast. And also, if you want to be our bestest friend, give us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts. That will be amazing. Right, so today I'm hosting the episode, as is more common than not, but I have found a mysterious death because we haven't done one of those in a while, and they're always fun/depressing.
How much fun you can derive from talking about a dead body.
Fun and depressing. So this one might be familiar to some people. It was on Netflix's Unsolved Mysteries not too long ago. This is Jennifer Fergate or Jennifer Fergate. At 10:40 on the night of Wednesday, 31st of May 1995, a woman stepped into the lobby of the Plaza Hotel in Oslo, Norway. She had initially phoned more than the week prior, on the 22nd, to book a reservation, but had rang the hotel earlier on the 31st to change her reservation to that night. Reportedly during the first phone call she spoke in English, but during the second she spoke in German. The reservation was for a Jennifer and Lewis Fergate, but on the form she completed when checking in, she wrote her name as Jennifer Fergate, so F-E-R Gate. She noted her date of birth as 28th of August 1973, making her 21 at the time. She listed her address as on the street Rue de la Stede in the village of Villaine in Belgium. However, the street doesn't exist. Nor does the Belgian company to which she claims she was employed, Service. She provided no proof of identification or payment details upon checking in. The receptionist either forgot to ask for these or decided to leave it for later because the hotel was very busy that night. Nonetheless, she was given the keycard to room 2805 and entered it for the first time at 10:44 p.m. So what of this other individual, Lewis Fergate? Well, the employee who checked Jennifer in claims she was on her own, but later that night she said she saw Jennifer standing by the elevator, likely waiting for someone. Another employee, however, is adamant that they saw Jennifer at the reception with a tall man between the ages of 35 and 40, but it's unclear at what point in Jennifer's stay this occurred. So there's your initial background.
Okay.
We've got a woman who seems to be lying on a check-in reservation, maybe?
Yeah, so she spoke in English first, then German.
Mm-hmm.
She spelt her name differently both times. So when she spelt it with H-E-R, that,
F-E-R.
to me... F-E-R, sorry, yeah. It sounds like she spelt it in a German style.
Oh, maybe.
I think, because F-A-I-R would be an English way of spelling fair. I think, and I'm going to get a lot of flack for this probably if I'm wrong, but the German way of pronouncing, of spelling the sort of fair thing would be F-E-R, because I think you get as in hair, as in air, H-E-R, which means sir, I think.
Yeah,
or H-E-R-R, isn't it? Yeah,
it's Mr.
It's Mr. rather than Sir.
Or something like that. Yeah, a male pronoun anyway.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah, it's an
consistent.
interesting point. I hadn't thought of that.
Either that, or they're actually from the north of England and they're going Fergate. Fergate.
From the north.
This
of
guy
England
sounds
and
German.
fluent German.
Great German
Yeah.
accent, Stuart.
Exactly.
And gave an address in Belgium.
Exactly.
Very lost.
Very
confused
lost.
as where they are.
Alex, you said that the one of the male receptionists, I think, thought they saw. Was it Ben Fergate? Did you say was the name?
Lewis.
Lewis. Sorry, mixing that up. Lewis. Was there a description given for Lewis at all?
No, just that he was tall and between 35 and 40.
35 and 40 feet. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he was a giant.
A giant.
I mean
you
that's
would
how they
notice
make them in Northern Europe, right?
That's how they make them.
Was there any comment on ethnicities of the two?
No, I mean, we know the woman because we got loads of photos of her. She's Caucasian. I assume the man is Caucasian as well.
Okay, fine.
Okay. So he had the same last name.
He did.
How do we know that?
We don't. We only
think
know
the
from the check-in form.
The assumption is that they're a couple, isn't it? That's what
Right,
Yeah.
so
That's the information.
in
we
the
expect.
second time that they checked in, that she checked in, she added Lewis.
No, she phoned first to book the check-in, and then she phoned again to say she moved it. She wanted to move it to tonight,
Right.
like a last minute sort of thing. But he was on the hotel stay both times. It was always for two people.
Ah, okay. But she checked in by herself.
Yes,
As in,
first
like,
time.
physically
according
walked
to the
in.
female.
Yeah, okay.
Is there any CCTV from it?
No.
So it's the claim that she checked in on her own is witness testimony from the female receptionist only, isn't it? That's the corroboration for that.
Yes.
Fine. So there is always the potential that she's wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
Okay. They kind of, and it's a bit judgmental. It's definitely judgmental, and it is obviously is your first thoughts. The first thing that I got from the description that you gave, was that it's somebody like either eloping, like a couple that have given false information and a false name, and have got lucky that nobody's asked for their identity, or almost like prostitution.
Yeah.
So they're giving false information again.
These are good thoughts.
That's where I'm kind of.
It does
that's
make
where
sense
Initially, it makes you.
Yeah, it makes sense with the prostitution thing. You know, they arranged to meet up. Or, to be honest, not even prostitution, just it could just be a fling.
Okay, so I've got a bit of a timeline for you here. We've gotten this from the key card, and it only... So let me think of how to word this. The key card only registers when the door is opened from the outside.
Okay, that makes sense.
So we know when someone's entering the room, but we don't know when someone's exiting it.
And that was 10:44, was it?
That was the first time it was used, yeah.
Okay.
So the next record we got on the key card is Thursday at 8:34. This is the morning after she checked in.
So is that 12 hours later, or is that almost 24 hours later? Sorry, which 10 o'clock are we talking?
It's 12 hours later.
12 hours
Well,
later. So 10
it's
so
like
checked
10
in late
hours
at night,
later. Yeah.
and then the next time it's used is the following morning
Yes.
to enter the room.
To enter the room, yeah.
Okay. And that's her key card. It's not the room was accessed. It's her key card specifically.
That's her key card she's used, yeah.
Okay. I was thinking then, is that somebody else entering her room, like a cleaner or whatever? But it doesn't sound like
No,
it.
it's a good question.
No, we know when cleaners and stuff entered because at around 1 p.m. the same day, the room was cleaned by 2 hotel staff. They reported that the room was empty and that despite being set up for 2 guests, only 1 pillow had been used and the extra duvet had been placed to the side. So there seems to be only 1 person in the room at this point. At some point on Thursday, Jennifer visited the reception and extended her stay over the weekend to Sunday. Again, no ID or payment information was taken. The card was not used again until 8:50 a.m. the next day, so either Jennifer hadn't returned to her room for over 24 hours, or she had been let back in by someone already in the room.
She'd been let in from the inside. Yeah.
So if there's a guy in the room hanging around, no one's seen him, but he could possibly have let her in during these 24 hours.
So he's not in there from lunchtime until the following day. So for him to get in, he had to have got in without the key
maybe
card.
20 minutes cleaning. So he wasn't there at lunch, say 1 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. After that.
But how did he get back in the room without the card?
I mean, that's the question, isn't it? Unless he had a different card.
Or a window. What kind of place is this?
So this is a nice hotel. It's the Plaza Hotel in Oslo. Think of it's a place where the Prime Minister would stay if he was on a business trip or something like that. It's a really nice place.
Okay,
this was really high up as well.
It's definitely not the kind of place that you could sneak in through an open window. In my head, I was thinking a motel, not a hotel, like a low kind of building. This is like a skyscraper.
Yeah, this was one of the high up rooms. It was a nice one.
Which makes sense that they'd have, in 1995, to have that kind of, key card tracking. You wouldn't get a motel.
Yeah.
Well, you probably even get motels now that just have normal keys.
Yeah, definitely key cards in 1995,
exactly.
Right? So she's been gone for 24 hours, we assume. The card was last used at 11:03 on Friday morning. A hotel employee passed her in the hallway and Jennifer said good morning in English. She then unlocked the room and hung a do not disturb sign on the door. That night, Jennifer ordered room service, a plate of bratwurst and potato salad.
Definitely German.
The food was delivered to the room at 8:23 p.m. and placed on the empty table, at which point Jennifer produced a 50 krona tip, which was a large amount of money for the time. This was the last time she was seen alive.
Ooh.
Over the course of her stay, 3 attempts were made to get in touch with Jennifer to organise payment. These were done via messages on the TV. Each time messages were confirmed to have been read by the room's occupant by pressing the OK button on the remote control, but ultimately the request for payment was ignored. With the occupant again ignoring the final message at 7:36 Saturday night, and room 2805 having displayed a do not disturb sign for almost 2 days, the reception sent hotel security to receive payment. At 7:50 p.m, security knocked on the door, but there was no response. A few moments later, he heard a gunshot from within the room.
Ooh.
Not wanting to deal with a possible gunfight, the security guard returned to reception, notified his manager and called the police. Approximately 15 minutes later, the security manager arrived at the room to investigate. Peering inside, he saw a silhouette of a woman laying on the bed. After getting no response from her, he waited outside the room until the police arrived 30 minutes later. Right, so I've got a link for you now, and if you scroll down, you too, using some sort of witchcraft, can explore the crime scene.
Oh,
wow.
So I'll link it in the description for everyone else. There's also a documentary at the top of the page, and it's definitely worth a watch if you're interested in this story.
Okay, explore the crowd. Oh, they've done a 3D model of it. That's really cool.
They've done a 3D model.
Well, why have you done this?
Because the power of the internet.
All I'm going to be is disappointed with every other mystery we do that doesn't have a 3D model of the crime scene or mystery.
I mean, I usually do find a nice internet database when I do actually.
Yeah, but it's not 3D model. That you can use a VR headset with. That's cool.
Get your VR headset out and look from the eyes of the dead woman.
Okay. That's a really weird looking TV though. This is really cool actually.
it is really cool. It's the fact that you can pan around the room as well.
Mm-hmm.
That looks like a really modern bathroom as well, actually.
It was a nice place.
I like the tiles.
I love how there's a dead woman on the bed. Sean goes,
Oh shit, there's a dead woman on the bed. No, I know, I know.
This bed is so spacious. Just push the woman on the floor. Let's see how big the bed is.
Ooh, wait, what? 2 shots were fired in the room.
2 shots. Yeah, stop.
Spoiler alert, Sean.
You can't control me.
So, as you can see, Jennifer was lying dead on the bed. She was holding a 9mm pistol in her right hand and had a single gunshot wound to her forehead. She was dressed in all black and all of the labels from her clothes have been removed.
We've had this before.
We have, with the Tanamshud Australian man. 2 spent cartridges were on the floor next to the bed, indicating that the gun had been fired twice, despite security only hearing 1 shot. One had passed through Jennifer's head, through the bed and into the concrete floor. The other had been fired into the pillow, and again through the bed and into the floor. The singed side of the pillow was facing down when the police arrived, leading to them to assume that the pillow had been flipped over after a test shot had been fired into it.
I wonder if they were trying to use it as a silencer.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure if that works.
No, well...
I don't know enough about guns.
I think anything that dampens the sound wave from rippling out from the end of the gun works at it.
Yeah.
And close proximity would cause it to be singed, because there's a sudden transfer of energy.
Yeah, definitely that. The gun was definitely placed on the pillow.
On the pillow, yeah. I don't think she doesn't look like she's holding that gun.
Okay, so if you actually click on that bit, it shows her holding the gun in her right hand with her fingers on the back of the gun as if she was holding it to her mouth, and her thumb's actually on the trigger.
Yeah. So let's look at this gun then. It was a 9mm Browning semi-automatic pistol produced in Belgium in the early 90s, probably 90 or 91. Its magazine contains 7 bullets, and there are a further 25 in a nearby briefcase.
Jesus.
Only part of the serial number was left on the gun, because the rest had been removed using acid. So they hadn't just scraped the serial number off, they properly, professionally removed it. No fingerprints were found anywhere on the gun or its ammunition, which is a shock, especially if you're loading a magazine.
Yeah, and the fact that she's
not
holding
getting
it.
Fingerprints. Mm-hmm.
She's holding it. Wait, is it no fingerprints at all?
No fingerprints at all.
Not even hers?
Nope.
Did she still have fingerprints? As in, I know it might be skipping ahead to the
actually
body,
don't know.
but she hadn't had her fingers cut off, mutilated or anything.
I actually don't know, no.
Okay.
Zoom in on her hand and have a look. Does the 3D model have fingerprints?
Oh, well, you can see her hand, though, actually.
Yeah,
you can
on the pistol grip. Oh, no, you can't. You can't see her fingers, though. Interesting as well that the gun is made in Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
So she claimed to be from Belgium, didn't she?
She did.
Right, I need to stop clicking
claim
because
to
I'm
live in
finding
Belgium.
spoilers, I think.
Yeah. I mean, you can look at stuff.
Well,
I'm basically gonna.
What I was going to say is that there was I don't know if it's a big spoiler, but there was a bag called a travel light bag, which now, as far as I know, is actually quite it might have always been a popular luggage producer, but they made stuff in Germany.
Yep.
So sorry, Travelite is a German company, but so just because the pistol's Belgian made doesn't really mean anything to me.
No. Basically, there's a few things in the room which point to her being German. I think there's one item of clothing which still has the label on it, and this bag as well.
Okay.
But going back to the gun, as I said before, Jennifer was holding the gun in her right hand. She had her fingers wrapped around the back of the grip and her thumb on the trigger, suggesting that she had shot herself. She was still holding down the trigger after death, and when the police removed the gun, it made an audible sound as the hammer clicked back into place.
Ooh, okay.
It is strange, though, that she was still holding the gun because of how the recoil would be when you fired it. But it's possible that her hand was locked in place post-mortem, sort of like a spasm, muscle spasm sort of thing.
Okay.
Considerable blood splatter was found present on the bed and areas around it. However, there was no blood or gunshot residue on Jennifer's hands, which is a big red flag in my opinion.
Yeah,
You'd think there'd be blood on the right hand specifically if she shot herself at close range.
Well, the thing about... So, you might not remember when I was talking about with a few of these actually, when a bullet is fired at close range, the initial energy transfer is quite narrow in the sense that the fact that a bullet is pointy or has a pointed edge, whether that's rounded off slightly or whether or not it's like armor-piercing triangular, it has a narrow entry wound. And then as the bullet continues to expand, it creates a ripple effect that makes the exit wound always much bigger. Mm-hmm. So you'd expect if she was shot in the head point blank like that she'd have scorch marks. There'd definitely be blood spatter because head wounds bleed loads. And she should have gunshot residue on her right hand because of... Yeah. And the only thing I would say is that gunshot residue is sent out as a cloud. So if her hand is not holding the gun in the typical fashion, normally if you imagine yourself holding a pistol and you fire, you get gunshot residue typically down your thumb and on your wrist because of the fact that the cartridge is expelled forward, the powder's shot backwards and it goes up your arm. Mm-hmm. If you have the gun the other way round, the spray may be away from her hand because the gun is facing the wrong way. So you might not get much, but you'd potentially expect either blood or gunshot residue. Similarly as well, with there being no fingerprint on the gun, it definitely just makes it look like it was put in her hand.
It does, yeah.
Like, no gunshot residue, no blood, no fingerprints. She's supposedly holding it in an awkward fashion. There is no way that she's shot that herself, surely. At least without somebody helping her.
Yeah, I'm getting, with you're talking about the blood spatters on the wall. The angle of where they are doesn't sort of feel right to me. The way that she's kind of like, if that is exactly how she was laying on the bed.
Well, she would have been sat up, probably.
But the bullet went into the floor.
But exactly.
The bullet went into the floor, so she couldn't...
Well, the
she
bullet
must
went
have
into
had
the floor, but it still... Was there no blood on the floor?
I don't know. There was definitely blood on the bed, and I think like on the wall on the telephone next to the bed, and like that sort of like shelf thing next to the bed as well.
What I'm saying is, if she put the gun to the side of her head, I'm thinking just from films and stuff, you'd hold it like you would normally a gun.
Yeah. With
your index finger around the trigger to the side. That would make more sense if she was shooting and where the blood ended up on the wall, right? If you look at where exactly was the gunshot wound on her head?
On her forehead.
I believe it was right on her forehead.
Right on her forehead, right? So if she's you held the gun like that, used her thumb to fire to push the trigger, and she's held it to her forehead, directly at her forehead, the blood would be on the lamp. It would be all over the
lamp, and the headrest, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So
I think there was blood around those places as well.
Yeah, this is a shit 3D model. I'm joking. It's pretty cool, but the questions
it's the best 3D model we've had in this show.
It's
so
the
far.
only 3D model we've had.
Exactly.
Correct.
So therefore, it's the best.
It's the fact it might not be relevant long term, but in terms of her position, so if she was lay flat as she was and shot herself in the head from there, the bullet would go through the bed and into the floor below. If she was anything more than sort of knelt it or like semi-inclined at like 45 degrees or more, it would have gone into the wall.
Yeah, but there's always the chance it could ricochet on the skull or the bed or something like that.
We did that with JFK, to be fair, but then for it to be able to do that over such a short distance. Where specifically on this 3D model, I couldn't find it. Where specifically was the bullet found? The gunshot. Where did the bullet end up?
It doesn't show you on here.
Okay. Do you know where it ended up?
I just know from information that they both ended up embedded in the floor.
And where?
Quite close to each other.
Yeah, so is that below the bed? Underneath the bed?
I believe it's underneath the bed, yeah.
Okay. So that's more likely then that the blood might end up on the wall if it was a suicide. Because it's only a small amount, it could just be like a spray or something. I'm trying to think of the physics of it.
I think the blood just gets everywhere. Anyway.
Yeah.
Like sand.
If you're shooting someone in the head, yeah, like sand. It's rough and coarse and everyone hates it, especially Anakin Skywalker. Okay.
Moving on.
So, across the room, was the partially eaten remains of the meal Jennifer had ordered the night before. It was discovered that she had undigested food in her stomach, which means that the food had sat a whole day before being eaten.
Ooh,
Wait, what?
that's weird.
Or
Or
she had eaten it on the Friday and died on the
and
Friday.
died,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's why it was sat there.
Did they get a time of death?
They didn't,
What?
which really annoyed me.
How can they not get a time of death?
Because it's
If you can
1995.
find it on the internet, go for it, but I couldn't find the time of death.
That's mad.
Well, did they not
I
do a
think
It's
proper
annoying
autopsy
because
then?
it's a very important... It didn't seem like they did, no. It's a very important part of the case which isn't available.
That is a massive piece of information, isn't it? Because
There's, yeah.
she wouldn't... surely she wouldn't have just eaten the food once it's cold the next day. Because you look at it on the plate, it's still on the plate.
I don't know, like, if you're, suicidal and sat in a hotel room, you could just be like, I'll just leave it for a whole day and then just try and stomach a bit down before you kill yourself. Super depressing, but it's possible.
I can't argue with that. Yeah, it is dark to think about, I guess.
Yeah, this is a dark episode.
There's a lot of things that we do on this podcast where, like that, I can't argue with the possibility of it. You know what I mean? It sounds unbelievable that someone would do that, but I wouldn't do that because I don't like wasting food. But I don't know, surely you just order something else. But again, if she was feeling suicidal, then the potential is that she wasn't thinking normally as well, or what I consider normal, rather. So,
yeah,
that's a good point. I still think that she was killed before that, or killed herself before that.
Yeah, okay, so we'll discuss that in a bit. But so there's loads of stuff in the room that you can look at, but notable things are a bottle of men's perfume on the table, which had her fingerprints on it, and a plastic bag containing a copy of the USA Today, which is a paper, if you didn't know. The bag was addressed to room 2816, which is on the other end of the hallway. It's unclear who was staying in the room during this time. So the hotel would basically give out complimentary papers to the rooms. I assume they'd ask you what paper you want and they'd deliver it. So either she's stolen the paper from this other room, or there's been a mistake and they've given her the wrong room paper. Or something like that.
So she was in 2805, this one was 2816.
Yes.
So did they find any...
We don't know if that
fingerprints on
occupant had come around to visit her and brought the paper or something like that. So, interestingly, there was a fingerprint on this bag with the paper on it.
Okay.
And it was submitted in 2017 to be checked who it is.
Oh.
And there's still no results.
Oh.
So we don't know,
So
unfortunately.
the newspaper is USA Today.
Mm-hmm.
That's not German, that's not Belgian.
But she
that's
spoke
not
English, so there's a good
Yeah,
chance
she
she might
spoke
read
English.
English as well.
Well, yeah, of course, but why USA Today? Why not London Today?
Maybe she lived in America.
Why not London Today? And, she could read an article about how their version of
Ham.
prosciutto
Terrible
wasn't
ham.
No, but
Or the
like,
pizza scam.
that's more, to me, unless she was really interested in the US news, or whoever was staying with her was really interested in US news, that tells me that it's another, not another piece of the puzzle, more like another wrench in the fucking, a spanner in the works, there you go.
Yeah, I think
Running
though
on.
the other thing to think about is there may have been something significant that happened in America in 1995 that was something pertinent in the news at the time and was high profile, and she was just
Okay.
keeping up to date with it.
Right, listeners, go over to the Internet Archives and find out what was happening in May 1995 in America.
Oh, well, there you go. It was clearly the 68th Scripps National Spelling Bee.
Oh, classic.
Obviously. Why didn't we think of that?
E3 1995.
Oh my god, that's
She
what
was
it
a
was.
gamer.
She was a big gamer. She needed to check out the PlayStation 1? Question mark?
Yes, I think that's right, actually,
Yes.
you sad nerd. Even though I know as well, because I think I got one for like...
The PlayStation X? which is the one I had. It was the sharp version. Okay, moving on. During her stay, Jennifer had attempted to make 2 phone calls. She had tried 2 numbers listed to Belgium, which were the same besides 1 digit. However, neither of the numbers were valid. Was she attempting to remember a phone number, or perhaps had she written one down wrong?
Huh. Wait, if they were actually... They had, like, the Belgian area code. That's interesting.
Yeah. The Belgium link just keeps surfacing, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So at the moment, let me just recap this for myself to make sure I've got it right. So the links to Belgium so far is that she said she was from Belgium, the weapons from Belgium, and she rang a number in Belgium. The ties to Germany are the clothes, the fact that she spoke German, and the fact that she ordered bratwurst.
Of course, don't forget about that.
And then the links to her issues, or to English or an English-speaking country, the fact that she spoke English, she bought a USA Today paper.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only ties to England, isn't it? So it seems as if she's either German or Belgian, or lives on the border between the two, I suppose.
I was going to say, because I think it's French. It's a French-speaking country, predominantly.
Well, they speak Flemish.
Sure.
They speak Flemish.
What's Flemish?
It's a hybrid language that's somewhere between German and French.
There you go, then. Yeah, so... Yeah, that's what I was trying to say, because I'm sure it's... They speak both French and German in that country. And
they speak them both separately and together. Yeah.
So that makes sense that she would, if she was...
Sorry, not German, Dutch. Dutch and French, sorry. But people speak it in German anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Flemish is a cross between French and Dutch. But I think they do speak German in Belgium. And it makes sense that
they
it's
definitely
on the border of Germany. So she could be natively German and moved to Belgium.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's the whole story I've got. Anything on that model that you've seen which sticks out that you want to talk about? Or should we move on to theories?
Okay, so one interesting thing, she showered or bathed in the final 24 hours.
She did, yeah.
So she was definitely...
She used the bathroom.
Yeah, so she was definitely alive at the point that she ordered the food.
Well, someone used showered or bathed.
Okay, someone. Okay, yeah. Bathroom.
I mean, you've got to have a shower after you execute someone. It's cathartic, right?
Mate, this is...
There will be a warning at the start of this episode.
Okay, good.
For depressing themes.
So, speaking of depressing themes, the fact that I'm looking at the door now, so the Do Not Disturb sign hung on there for ages, didn't it? And it was locked from the inside. So that's why they initially determined suicide, the police.
Yes, because if there was someone else in there, they've somehow locked the door behind after leaving.
Yeah,
and
but
made
that's
it seem
easy
like
to
it's
do.
being locked from... No, but they've made it seem like it's being locked from the inside.
Oh, do you mean as in from the inside you can still turn the clasp, can't you, so that somebody trying to get in with the security card still can't get in? Like when you're on holiday and you're
you can double lock the door.
Yeah. I just find the whole thing a bit weird. The whole thing's weird.
Of course you find it weird. This the show we do.
Yeah.
It's the point, Stuart. We're on episode 29, 30.
Yeah? Question mark?
29, I think, yeah.
I know my own show.
Done a lot of them.
We've done
why did she have so many bullets with her?
Episodes by this point.
Why did she have so many
she's
bullets?
a secret agent. Let's get it over and done with. So yeah, the cartridges, spent cartridges were found on the floor. 25 live rounds for the pistol were found in a attache case.
That was the only thing in that briefcase. There was
Jesus.
just 25 bullets. Just rolling about.
But it was also an illegal gun, wasn't it? It wasn't registered.
Yes. Speaking of that, I don't know the gun laws in this part of the world during this time, so I don't know if you were allowed to have guns.
You're probably not meant to have guns.
Because I know, like in Germany, you can have registered guns, right?
I don't know. It's a good point.
I'm pretty sure you can. Okay, so let's try and ID this person. Who was Jennifer Fergate? No one ever came forward to identify her, and she's not in any police records. The only information police had at first was that she had some connection to Belgium, spoke both English and German, and was 21 years old. The nature of dental work she had done suggested that she lived either in the US or in Western Europe.
Okay.
Because it was quite extensive and they'd used like gold and pearl inlay or something like that.
Gold and pearl inlays in her teeth?
It might not be pearl. There was gold definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, if you when you see older people, their fillings are typically gold, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whereas now they're done much more neutral.
And it was a thing done at this time in the US or in Western Europe, so quite like a wealthy country.
Okay.
Basically.
Well, if she's staying there as well, she's got money.
Yeah. So that's as far as that went at the time, but DNA analysis from 2016 revealed that she was of Eastern German ancestry and was between the ages of 23 and 25, not the 21 she claimed.
Okay.
So we've got an East German woman who's probably 24 instead of 21.
So they're getting that from what?
They exhumed the body and took DNA samples.
Okay. So they've traced it back through ancestry then or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay,
I assume it's pretty accurate.
That doesn't mean that she lived or was born in East Germany though, right?
No, it doesn't.
It just means that her family's nationality. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But that could mean East Germany was... I'm going to use my language carefully here. East Germany was the Reich and stuff, wasn't it? Was it East Germany? I can't. I'm trying to remember.
I don't know German history very well.
Okay, so to my knowledge, West and East Germany became separated by the Berlin Wall.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And East Germany was the one that was controlled by the more Nazi side of things, as far as I know.
Okay.
And that's why I'm using my words carefully, because I don't want to actually upset anyone or get something completely wrong.
It's fine. There's a disclaimer at the start that it's a shallow and probably uninformed dive, so
I am not an expert in German history.
We're safe from all mistakes we may make.
Yeah, well, what I mean is that she could be part of the German Secret Service, like the SS or KGB's Russian, isn't it? Never mind. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, but then if she could... So if she's 24, that makes her birthday, 1969?
Quick maths.
Yes.
69, 70? So there was still a lot of... when did the Soviet Union break down? Because although she's of East German heritage, you wonder whether or not she could be Eastern European
Eastern
and then...
German.
Yeah. I mean, just because she's of Eastern German heritage doesn't mean that she was born in Germany, like you said. You wonder whether or not maybe she is... I know it's complete speculation, I've got nothing to back it up, but like the fact that she almost seems like she is Secret Service, a secret agent, some sort of assassin of some kind. The fact that nobody came forward makes you think, okay, yeah, could she be some sort of government spy? But in terms of where she would come from, the access from East Germany to everywhere around the Soviet Union, which was still as the USSR when she would have been born, means that she could have been raised in a completely different upbringing to how someone might be who would be from Germany. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that's the sort of thing that I was going with, to be fair. I'm getting big sort of vibes that she is some kind of special agent, that sort of thing. Not, you said assassin, that didn't pop into my head, but that's also a very good point. Could also be the same case. Like, it feels like the fact that they never found family members, anything like that, no way to trace her, no one came forward about her, that is 100% like, she's tried to hide her identity and protect her identity.
Yeah.
Normal people don't.
Okay, so in terms of if this was a suicide, the overall scene is consistent with suicides, according to experts, in terms of the body position and the way the gun was held. The lack of personal belongings is also, in terms of she wouldn't need anything if she was just going to kill herself anyway. Why would she?
If she'd premeditated
the hotel? Yeah.
But why would she need 27 rounds to do so?
Exactly. Another question is why she was dressed so nicely. And this can both support and refute suicide, in my opinion. Yeah. Because if you're feeling suicidal, you're probably not going to feel like dressing up, really. But also, on the other side, if you premeditated suicide, maybe you dress nicely so when you're found...
Like ceremoniously or something.
Yeah, it's not embarrassing. So that kind of, it fits on both sides of the spectrum,
That's a good point.
opinion.
Well, I was thinking also as well, like, if you look at the turquoise green bag, the Travelite bag, it looks like lingerie to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was getting more of like, we mentioned right at the start of the episode that she could have been a sex worker, or if they were just meeting up casually for sex with whoever this was, if that was either her profession or her plan. Did they have Tinder back in 99? But looking at the bag then brought that back to me. So if she didn't need much, why did she need whatever she was wearing and 3 bras? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, we don't know her travel plan, do we?
No.
So she checked into this hotel, but we don't necessarily know how long she'd planned on staying there, or where she'd come from before.
She had planned to stay 2 days originally, and then she extended it to be over the weekend. So she was going to leave on Sunday.
Just remind me, you said first of all she rang, and then she rang again to move the booking. When was the original booking scheduled for, compared to the...
I'm not sure, actually. It might have been like it might have been on the 1st of June, and instead she moved it to the 31st, like the day before. Like, there wasn't a big gap between.
Okay. It wasn't.
But
like
it would suggest that to me, that would suggest that she'd arrived earlier than anticipated.
Yeah, it seems like to me she's arrived a day before she was meant to be there. So the problems with suicide, which we've kind of covered a lot already, are the problems with the locked door, the fact that it was locked from the inside and both key cards were present in the room. So her key card and the key card for Lewis Fergate, who no one has seen at this point.
Yeah.
There was also only a 14-minute window where the room was unguarded and a potential killer could have fled.
Okay, so you're saying after they heard the first gunshot when they were trying to gain access...
Yeah, the security guard went down to get help, remember? He
went down to reception,
right,
he told his supervisor, and he phoned the police, and there was a 14-minute gap between the supervisor going upstairs to check the room.
Okay. I can confirm as well, there is an eye hole on the door, so someone... 14 minutes, and the fact that he could have looked, he or she, sorry, presumably it's a he because it was Lewis Fergate, looking outside the window, outside the eye hole, they'd be able to leave within that time, 100%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But again, it's locking the door, because he left the keycard in the room.
How did they enter the room?
Well, getting out of the room, you wouldn't need a keycard. But you're saying
it was locked.
Still locked from the inside.
He locked it from the outside.
So how did they get in? How did the police gain access to the room? Did they break the door down?
So the security cleaners could open the door from the outside with their keycard, and security could open a door if it was double locked. That's how it worked.
Okay.
What? So in my head, I'm
like
thinking that if they can unlock it, could they lock it?
Security?
No, my understanding of it would be the lock on the inside, which would be like the same sort of thing as if you were in the toilet and then you turn the lock so no one could get in. If you had that, so it was double locked with both the key card and that privacy lock, if you unlocked it from the outside, in theory, you wouldn't be able to lock it again.
Yeah, so I think we're potentially describing the same thing. But so in my head, what I'm thinking is that you've got an electronic lock, which enables the tumblers to be able to open, like on a normal door. You've then got a normal twisty barrel lock that you can turn, and like normally you can double turn it in your hotel room, can't you? And then if that's locked, if you open the electronic lock from the outside with a card, but someone else is inside double locked it, the door doesn't open. The only way to open that is to use a key. There's normally like a tiny key, and they'll have like some sort of skeleton key to unlock it. The question is, can you lock it with that same key?
Possibly.
Because if you can,
it's some sort of inside job.
Then, but what I'm saying is, we've never seen this bloke. We don't know who he is, and there's been multiple people who said that they've never seen anybody enter or exit the room. But is that because they were never doing it like inconspicuously? Like, had somebody been freely accessing her room that either had access or had gained access to? Because
possibly.
It's a good
obviously it's
point,
impossible
because the way
to
that
dispute.
The way I was imagining it was that the privacy lock would just lock the mechanism for the keycard. It'd just be a physical lock for the keycard, if that makes sense. But then you're right. If there's the keycard and another keyhole for a physical key, and there's two separate tumblers, two separate locks, then in theory you could lock it from the outside. And it would make sense that you'd be able to do that, because what if it became a crime scene, for example, and you didn't want anyone getting in? As the hotel staff, you've been instructed by the police, you don't want anyone getting into that room. You need to be able to lock that room so no cleaners can get in by accident.
Mm-hmm.
You'd probably put loads of tape up saying crime scene, obviously, as well, but then if someone wanted to do it maliciously, they couldn't unless they had security access.
The thing that strikes me as a little weird is the way that Alex gave us the description of they knocked on the door and then immediately the gun was fired. You wonder if she was spooked into doing it.
Or she was just like holding the gun, contemplating it, and then...
Yeah, and then somebody's gone to get the door and she's almost panicked and shot herself. But simultaneously, it doesn't account for the second gunshot. So that could have been in those 14 minutes where nobody could account for what's happening in the room. You wonder whether or not she was pretending or doing it as a dress rehearsal, holding it to the pillow. Somebody spooked her and she's fired it because it didn't matter. Like, she was spooked. There was no natural instinct to survival not to shoot yourself in the face.
Yeah.
That she had to fight off. And then in that time window, she's used it to commit suicide, or somebody else has used it.
Yeah. I think the assumption with that pillow is that she's done a test shot at some point, like days before, and no one's heard it.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah.
But we'll move on to whether she was killed. In terms of murder, the most striking evidence is the lack of gunshot residue or blood on Jennifer's hands.
Yeah.
Since she supposedly fired the gun twice, it seems unlikely that her hands would be clean. Also, given how close the gun would have been held to her head in a suicide, then it's highly unlikely that there would be no gun splatter on her right hand. So I think we've covered this quite a bit already.
Yeah.
It's fishy that her hands are clean, basically. Yeah. However, guests in a neighbouring room said that during Jennifer's stay, there was a suspicious Belgian man across the hall. The police tracked this man down, back in Belgium, and when questioned, he claimed that he had heard about Jennifer's death from the reception when checking out on the morning of Saturday, 3rd of June. This was strange,
she wasn't
because
dead
Jennifer
yet, was she?
Wouldn't die until that evening. So either he got his dates mixed up, or she had been killed on the Friday after eating her meal, and he knew about it.
Ooh. And does he fit the description of Lewis as well? Is he 25 to 40, tall, white?
I actually don't know.
Okay.
All we know is that they questioned him, and he basically said this, and then he said, "Go away," and slammed the door on him. And it didn't really get any further than that.
Oh, that's dodgy.
It wasn't like a police question. I think it was like a press questioning sort of thing.
Right, okay. So no warrant or anything?
No.
I mean, he could have got the dates wrong if he didn't speak.
Yeah, he definitely could have got the dates wrong.
First language.
Not even that, just having a bad memory. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know when he was questioned. This might have been weeks, months afterwards.
Yeah, but it was probably him, wasn't it? Let's be honest, guys. Come on.
Creepy Belgian man across the hall.
Oh no, the problem is without it. Oh, that's so irritating that he wasn't questioned. Because you wonder whether or not he heard the other gunshot.
Yeah. Maybe she stole his paper and he was really mad.
Oh, was that the paper? Was he the room opposite the one that should have had the paper?
No.
Oh.
No.
I was going to say, that would be amazing. Imagine if it's just a revenge killing, stealing the newspaper.
Very petty. So, we've done suicide, we've done murder. How about a serial killer? Because we always have to cover that on this show. Someone suggested that Jennifer was the victim of Marc Dutois, a Belgian serial killer. I'm probably butchering his surname, but whatever. He was arrested in 1996 for the kidnapping and torture of 6 girls, aged between 6 and 19, 4 of whom had died. After a lengthy trial, Dutois received life imprisonment in 2004. So, very lengthy trial. It took 8 years, apparently. Although there's nothing physical tying him to this case, the timings do line up, and it could possibly explain who Lewis Fergate was.
But why would she check him in if he was a serial killer?
Maybe he'd approached her beforehand, and they were they had a thing going.
Yeah,
and
they're
his plan
often
was just secretly
sociopaths,
killing.
aren't they?
Yeah.
It would line up
Captivating
with
people.
him just with there just being a bag with a gun, with the bullets in it.
Yeah.
If he was a serial killer, he'd probably just keep a weapon round. You know what I mean?
But why would he leave his gun at the scene?
Well, he planted it and then wiped it clean.
He might not have accounted for the fact that security came up, presuming that he left when they heard the gunshot.
Yeah.
Actually.
But the thing is, he wouldn't have known that security weren't going to immediately bust open the room.
No, but he could be
That's
looking
so
for little
risky.
people, can't he? I mean, yeah, he might have just gotten super lucky.
Gosh, the prospect that if it was a serial killer, the serial killer has got jammy with the timing is insane.
It is, yeah.
But then how does he get out of the room and lock it behind him?
Well,
I don't know.
because he works.
These are all questions.
Well, that's a good point. But
It's magic.
serial killers, there's an argument to say that they have psychopathy. One thing I understand is that serial killers want to be found.
Yeah, at some level, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so
They want
he might have been at the point
attention,
where it's
don't they?
you know what, I'll give you a chance this time. And maybe the excitement of oh shit, I might actually get caught. You know what I mean? So we're just to counter as a counter argument to the point where why would he be so careless? Why is he not trying to hide better? It could be that.
It could be.
It could be just
Or people make
grandiose thing.
mistakes.
Well, yeah.
I know we haven't. I don't think we've covered it explicitly, and you might not. You probably won't have an answer to this, Alex. Actually, but was there any other way out of the room?
Not that I'm aware of.
Window.
It was very high up, I think. So unless he's done a Mission Impossible and scaled the building.
I'm just thinking. So, they've got. Thing is, the bathroom looks like it's all tiled off. It's not going to be
Yeah, there's no
Shawshank
window in the
Redemption.
bathroom.
He's going to go behind the toilet. He's not hiding in the wardrobe. The vent's tiny on the roof. When you click on the door, there's a panel next to the door, but it doesn't look like it communicates with the room from what's demonstrated.
That could just be a fire panel or something.
Yeah, or just an electrics panel or something, yeah. Unless you can lock that door. I wonder if you could lock the door. Imagine that panel, he locked the door and climbed out the panel.
And then screwed it back on.
And screwed it back on in 14 minutes and escaped the building with no one knowing.
Perfect. The perfect crime. Right, so the next thing I've got, which we've discussed briefly already, is what if she was a prostitute? So perhaps some sort of high-end sex worker hired by Lewis Fergate. The hotel kind of fits the bill, I guess.
Yeah, it's very escorty, isn't it?
Yeah,
from
you've taken a nice
films.
escort. It would also explain her extended absences from the hotel, why she had a gun with so much spare ammunition for protection, and also the need for a weapon that couldn't be tracked. Because, if you're into that sort of
risky industry.
Risky industry, breaking the law already, why not have a gun that can't be tracked? It doesn't, however, account for the lack of ID or clothing tags, and it doesn't explain why nobody recognised her.
I was just going to say that. Normally, again, it's all TV documentaries and films, isn't it? But you'd presume that escorts would have a particular clientele and they would take them to a specific venue repeatedly. And the venue
and
would
even if they're
recognise them.
super quiet about it, there's still some advertising going on, right?
Yeah.
If you want to make money out of it. And the assumption is that something went wrong and she was murdered.
But again, though, how does the killer leave?
Exactly.
Unless it was just a case of she's reached a particularly low point, having let somebody
you know
out.
What? This is a good point. I've got in my head from the food thing that she didn't die that night. She died the night before.
Okay.
So there must have been a killer in that room, in terms of how I'm thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's fired the second gunshot.
Yeah, I'll get to this in a second. That's under my spy section. But it could also fit with a prostitute, maybe. But okay, so the big one that everyone likes, the romantic one, is she's some way involved in espionage. So the Plaza Hotel during this time was being used for secret negotiations between Israel and Palestine. Now, citation needed on that. I'm not sure whether that's 100% true, but apparently that's a thing which happened. If she was a spy, it explains almost everything in the story. Her lack of ID, lack of clothing tags, the gun, so much ammunition for it, the professional way the serial number had been removed from the gun, her absences from the hotel room for long periods of time, and why she wasn't recognised. And it also gives a motive for her murder. So, the thing that you were talking about, Sean, some believe that she was killed on the Friday, a day before being discovered, and that the killer had stayed in the room to set the scene. Upon hearing security knock the door, they fired a warning shot into the pillow and then escaped whilst the room was unguarded.
Yeah.
But the same problem still lies there. How did the killer not know that security weren't going to immediately bust down the door and shoot him or her? And how does the door...
Like if you hear a gunshot and you... Go on.
But it's... In my mind... I mean, yes, I do agree with you, Sean, but if you commit a visible or audible crime in front of security... I suppose maybe they didn't know it was security. That's the other thing. Maybe they just thought it was somebody knocking on the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They might not have knocked and said, it's security, open up. They might have just knocked and they just they panicked and just fight and basically said, fuck off.
Well, they also might have said it in Norwegian, a language that he didn't speak.
Yeah, true.
So the way I imagine it, right, I'm a security guard, I'm walking up to that door, right? I knock on the door, say, open up, blah, 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 hear a gunshot. My first instinct, like completely joking aside, my first instinct would not be to open that door. There's two possibilities that would be going through my head. One would be, he's got a gun, or she. I'm fucking off, I'm getting the police. Two, if I wanted to save someone's life, they're probably dead anyway.
Yeah. My thought would be someone's just fired through the door at me.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm probably an unarmed security guard in the hotel. I'm going to run away and get help.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that addresses the whole gunshot knocking on the door thing. But how does that explain why the door is locked? So let's say it's espionage and she's killed. How does the killer leave?
Supposedly, because he's a trained spy, he has some way of locking the door.
He might have stolen the security
or
key.
Has stolen a key or something like that.
I reckon
Maybe
it was the security guard.
I was just about to say that. Did it really take 14 minutes?
Reported the death. The only person who reported the death, the only person who rang the police, the only person who heard that gunshot was whoever went to that door.
Well, the second security guard was the one who looked in the room and saw the body. So the first one didn't report the death, the first one just heard a gunshot.
I forgot there was two.
There was two.
Is there any trace of the security guard trying to open the door with his security badge?
I actually don't know.
Because I'm wondering whether or not they didn't bother using a swipe and whether or not they had a skeleton key for all the rooms and they've just gone straight to that rather than trying a key card, which would suggest that anybody who works in security may be able to access the room freely.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the assumption that security have like the ultimate key and they can get into every door. I do want to say as well, if the killer had been in the room this whole time, they were the person who was pressing OK on the control to get rid of those messages on the TV. So they knew that at some point someone was going to come and ask for money.
Yeah, because if she died the night before, then someone has to be there to press OK.
Yeah, someone pressed OK 3 times on that controller. And the last time was like 10 minutes before the gunshot was heard.
I mean, obviously the gunshot was heard, but there was definitely someone in that room then.
Yes. Whether that was Jennifer herself or whether that was a second person.
So that what is what you're suggesting there then? That somebody stayed in that room for 24 hours with the dead body on the bed?
Yes.
That is
like
not unheard of.
setting the scene.
But not even setting the scene, that is not unheard of.
That's grim though. Like
I
the
know of
the autopsy photos are
story
pretty
recently, which is actually real. There was someone who was murdered. The murderer stayed in the house for 23 hours, wrapped the body in cling film, ordered drugs and a KFC or whatever takeaway to the house, and then reported it to the police. So it's not unheard of for someone to just be around that body. Especially if the killer wasn't well, like a serial killer potentially, if they're used to it, because they are a spy or a secret agent or a assassin, like that's possible. Like, again, what I was saying before, just because we don't think it would happen doesn't mean it doesn't or wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
And we are talking about, the more I'm thinking about it, we're talking about these sort of mysteries. There's going to be things that are completely outside our, outside the box of our thinking.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, so this is a really cool story. I like it. I think it's just because it's like the Tell 'Em Should one. It has a spy angle to it. It's like kind of romantic.
There's a spy angle, but also it's not 100%.
Yeah. So that's everything I've got. What are your final thoughts? What do you think? Who do you think Jennifer Fergate was? Do you think she killed herself? Do you think she was killed? Let me hear it.
I think she was killed. I think that the food inside her stomach that was undigested... Stu, if you eat some food and then you are killed straight after, my understanding would be that the food would just be in your stomach still digesting.
I mean, it would be partially, but it's all fed back by your
But it's a different
nervous
type
system.
of... Yeah, okay, so it's a different type
If you disable your nervous system,
digestion, isn't it?
your digestion will just stop.
Yeah, it kind of like pauses in time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So it would be broken down by acid, but then it wouldn't go through and have like the water taken out of it and stuff like that.
Yeah, it'd be more just the acids. Like the acid would be consumed, so to speak.
Right, okay.
And there'd be no mechanical digestion. Like mechanical digestion makes up most of your digestion of your stomach
Which
all
is when your
squishing
stomach
together.
muscles churn and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, okay. So then, it just doesn't make sense to me that... oh no, another theory. What if the guy made her chew the food after she died, but then you wouldn't be able to... Would it swallow?
She wouldn't be able to swallow it, no.
She wouldn't be able to swallow it. There you go. So that rules that out. So she's eaten the food the night before. She's been killed. She's not digested the food. That, for me, 100% happened.
Yeah, I don't think you can argue that didn't happen.
No. And what you were saying, Alex,
I still lean towards her leaving the food for a whole day.
No.
I'll talk about my feelings at the end, but...
Okay, for me, no. Which says to me that she was killed. Or if she did kill herself, then whoever was in the room with her assisted her or knew about it and just sort of stayed in the room. And then I guess that second shot was just a warning shot. Already killed her. It's a massive, hotel. I would have thought that someone would have heard the other gunshot. But it might not have been a full hotel. There might not have been neighbours. I don't know. It could have been in the middle of the night.
There was people in the room next door, but I don't know whether they were in at that time.
This is the thing. It's a hotel, so you don't always spend every waking minute in a hotel. They could have been asleep. Sometimes in hotels, it looks like quite a nice hotel, so like soundproofing, but for me, sometimes if I go to a hotel, I'll take like earbuds or something, because people walking down the hall, it's dead loud. And stuff like that, you know what I mean? So they might not have heard the gunshot or just like not really realise what it was. If the soundproofing in general was just, thick walls, they might not have even noticed. So I'm thinking that's happened. the gunshots happen, no one's reported it because no one's known about it or not really thought anything about it. And then it's a warning shot. It doesn't explain how they've locked the door from the outside. So, for me, that is the first security guard pretending to go and hear the gunshot. Then he's told the second security guard about it, rang the police, and the second security guard has gone and seen the dead body.
Okay, the deep conspiracy is happening.
That's
right
the only
now.
thing I can... That's what I'm deciding on.
Why do you think she was at the hotel? Do you think she's a spy, prostitute, just on holiday?
Yes. Yeah.
Which one?
Yeah.
That was such a cop-out.
All of the above.
I have a better question.
Yeah, she was an
Before-
espionaging
just before I
prostitute
answer
on
that.
holiday.
Mate, it could happen. So, all those years of trying to hunt down Castro. Is there any more information on that first security guard? Like how long he
No.
worked there for?
No. I'm
you
sure
go.
you could dive in deeper and maybe get his name, but I didn't go very deep because it didn't occur to me at all that the security guard would be in on it.
Well, that's why they needed me on the investigation.
Exactly.
To throw
Someone
them
to think
completely
that's-
off.
Waste everyone's time.
And get it completely wrong. And tell them stories about ham. At the moment, there's no information for me to dispute that it's not the security guard.
No. Besides how convoluted and insane.
Yes, but
The
this is
conspiracy would be.
convoluted. This is why it's a mystery. If it was obvious, they would have been found. That's
Okay.
the angle I'm going with.
Right. Stuart, do you want to bring us back to Earth a bit more? What do you think?
I think so. I can't make my mind up honestly between the two that I'm thinking, but they don't necessarily change how I think things happened. I think she's either it's gonna sound strange. I think she's either a spy or she's a prostitute, and she's had somebody in the room who has either done some horrible sex crime against her, or has blackmailed her, and the resultant thing is that she's let that person leave. She's manually locked the door herself, and then she's opted to kill herself. Granted, it definitely doesn't explain why she held the gun the way she did, why there's no gunshot residue, why there's no blood, fingerprints, blah blah blah, and why she's got an unlicensed gun, unless it's because she's a spy and she's been found out and someone said, either you kill yourself or tomorrow we'll be back for you, that sort of thing, and there was a threat for her life or something that's unravelled in that sort of scenario. I think that is the only way that I can understand how she's died, and I think she's... Oh no, because I was going to say I think she's killed herself on the Friday night, but then who presses OK on the...
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
On the TV? No, I think... I don't know, actually. I really
Sound a
can't
bit
explain.
wishy-washy there. I might be completely off the mark, Stuart, but at least I've got conviction.
Sticking by his guns.
I actually just don't know. I think that's my honest answer.
Okay.
I really just don't know.
That's fair.
I cannot piece I can't see how the pieces fit together. It just... The thing for me is I can't explain the gun and the door and the food in any scenario that anybody explains. This one of them doesn't fit.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from the security guard.
Shut up, Sean.
But the security guard would have to have killed her the day before,
Yeah, he did.
and then got up and said 24 hours later randomly, opened her door,
Yeah.
pressed OK on the TV remote, and then reported her body. Who presses OK on the TV remote in that scenario?
Who presses OK, Sean?
The security guard.
But who's... So that means the security guard's already up there.
He's let himself in, yeah.
So who's sending the message? Another security guard, maybe, I suppose.
No, the
Reception.
same security guard. He sent the message to the room.
What? Ran upstairs, pressed OK, ran back downstairs, pressed send, ran back upstairs, pressed OK.
It's the perfect crime.
It is. It's so perfect, it's melted in my brain. Yeah. So I'm kind of annoyed because, Stuart, you've stolen my master theory, which I didn't think anyone would think of, which is the fact that she's a spy, and it explains everything in the story, and for some reason she killed herself.
Yeah.
Because I just think that that fits. I think that she's left the food 24 hours and either like forgotten about it because she's so worked up about what's happened. Maybe she's been like, I don't know, outed or something like that. Her cover's been blown. And she's just like not thinking about the food. And then she's like, a whole day later, she just remembers, I might as well eat something. I'm getting hungry.
That's
tries
fair.
to
I mean,
eat it.
If you're that stressed, you will just lose your appetite.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're feeling suicidal, I mean, you're not going to want to eat.
Not going to want to eat, no.
Yeah, but that explains why she got the clothing tags, why she's got a gun with a serial number missing, why she's got so many extra bullets, why she's at the hotel in the first place. It's perfect. And I won't hear anything bad about my theory.
It's perfect. I've decided it. End of episode. Goodbye, everyone.
No. I reckon, let's say, this is the only way around it, right? Let's say she did die in the afternoon, but it didn't digest in her body on the Friday night when she ate it because it was that bad her stomach rejected it.
But why did she vomit then? Why would it still be in her belly?
The second stomach.
Because
she ate her own vomit like a dog.
Oh no! That's not where I wanted to go with that.
Ramblings of a Madman is currently available on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. All the links are available on Twitter at Roam Podcast. That's ROAM Podcast. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.